Hey YouTube, just a fact that people just don't understand. Whenever I tell someone this piece of information, they're like, "No, that can't be true." Just because the media blows it so out of proportion. All you hear is about carbon emissions and global warming, But when you start looking into it, you're like, "Huh? How much carbon is out there?" You would expect it to be kind of a larger percent. You're like, "Oh," you brace yourself and go, "Okay." I wonder if it's like, 3, 4, or 5% of the atmosphere is carbon. But when you look into it, it's nothing of that sort. Nothing of that sort. It's actually only 4/100ths of 1%. I mean, it is freaking amazing that even any of this, any of the green plant life could even breathe. I mean, this is literally a 0.04 of a percent. We're talking 400 parts per million. That's almost nothing. I mean, it's actually kind of amazing that grass can grow, trees can breathe. I mean, they've got to be choking. There's almost no carbon at all anywhere. So, even if you do agree with some studies that said there's a slow uptick in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere over like the last 100 years, and it might be possible. I'm not going to debate possibly some of that. I didn't look at that particular information very strongly, but if that is true, so be it. But once again, carbon dioxide doesn't cause global warming. They say, well, it does absorb a radiation and stuff. Yeah, I can probably understand that, but the whole greenhouse effect and everything, there's no evidence for that with carbon dioxide. And especially the warming of the whole Earth, especially when you only have 400 parts per million. I mean, this is so ridiculous. I mean, this could be even natural causes could increase that dramatically. It could be volcanoes and all kind of things could spike carbon dioxide levels, not just man-made anything. And so while man-made stuff could, increase it, the percentage from what I understand is so minute, so tiny. The number already is just so minuscule that it's almost just not even significant. Once again, it's so freaking amazing that plant life can even breathe. I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, I'm not going to go on a harp and constantly talk about, global warming every other video, but I just want to get that out of my system. And I've gotten a lot more, responses and stuff from other individuals that like to quote other websites and spam the crap out of my channel. And so they're not going to be allowed on. But they tell me, look at my sources, but then when I look at their sources, they're the same globalist types of, references that want to have carbon taxes, and they have an agenda to push. And so, like the weather, NOAA weather, re-updating and tweaking their numbers, which actually cause a lot of the odor temperature numbers to go up about 1%. So they've tweaked a lot of their numbers. This is not the same set of numbers. The data has changed over time. And from the historical record, I don't trust them at all. When they have agendas like carbon tax and God knows else what's going on. So my sources are simply pointing this out. There's sources from the CIA, internal memos that have been declassified showing that the main concern was global cooling. And it goes on and on and on. And of course, people don't want to look at any of that. So I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to even waste one more breath about this subject matter. To me, it's case closed until I find anything else of any kind of real substance. Because what they do, besides trying to, quote the NOAA Weather Service, which has been caught, red-handed, and they don't want to talk about NASA at all. They don't want to. They're just kind of totally oblivious about those manipulations. They simply want to say and quote their own set of websites as if that's a lot better than my websites. And so, you know what, you guys, there's some major biases going on here. And so you can have your bias and you can chew on whatever you want to believe on, but I don't have to hear it. I don't have to have it on my channel. And so if you want to, make a little comment that you just disagree, that's cool, no problem. But when you spam the crap out of me and you put all kinds of just propaganda, no, that's a no-go. We're not having that on my channel, so you can just deal with it. But anyways, I just thought that'd be really cool to tell you about how low the actual carbon amount in the atmosphere really is. I mean, we're talking about just the tiniest of tiny fractions. 4/100ths of 1%. I mean, it's almost not even statistical. It's just barely even there. I mean, it's amazing how I guess the plant life just pulls whatever it can possibly pull out. and thankfully for photosynthesis, and I just don't even know how the plants live. I mean, no wonder they thrived so much better in times we had a higher content of carbon, I mean, because, I mean, maybe that's a reason why, to some degree, that our food production isn't what it could be, Not that this particular carbon number has changed from what I understand over recent time period, but, from what I understand, back in like when the dinosaurs were around and stuff, from what I understand that the carbon levels were much higher. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but from what I understand, that's what I understand to be. And if that's true, no wonder there could be a lot more larger animals, because there probably was a lot more food, a lot bigger plants, and God knows what else is going on. Maybe that all makes sense to you, because it makes sense to me. Maybe it all makes sense to everyone. Maybe people are just kind of in their own propaganda. And so I'm gonna pull back on this subject just because it's really getting old, and I'm really attracting a lot of the wackos out there. So this whole channel is not about global warming. The whole reason I even brought it up was just an example of misinformation. And as us as preppers, we want to be careful about what we believe in. And so this is just one more example of, you believe in something and you fight against it, you're going to get resistance. And that, to me, is just more evidence that that you're even more right. And not that every time that you have resistance, that means that you're correct. But the amount of wackos that I've attracted on these videos, astronomical. And so when I look up at their channel, almost every one of them has no videos. They're just a blank YouTube channel. God knows who they could be. And there's only like one channel that had any videos on the topic of global warming, and he's a fanatic. And he goes out of his way. It must be like his full-time job just to try to debunk people. And even when he tries to debunk them, he's only using the same people, once again, that it's their agenda to push global warming. So yeah, if it's the scientific community's obligation and their directive, and they're wanting to push that way, yeah, you're going to see a movement toward trying to prove it, because they're biased themselves. And so, when people say, well, scientists don't have no reason to lie. Oh yeah, I guess it's like the doctors that had no reason to tell people that they should smoke several packs of cigarettes or drink alcohol, even just decades ago, that was a common thing. Okay. I mean, my grandpa, he told me about that, that they would, say, hey, you just need to probably smoke a few cigarettes to get that lung, congestion out of there. I mean, all the crazy things. Look at psychiatry, for example. All that shock therapy and treatment that was totally off the wall. Lobotomies. You think that science is so great and they've had it all down pat? No, it's so ultra primitive that it just makes your hair stand up and go white. You think that science has got to figure... No, science is so behind the time, and they're always changing their story. You think so? Science is so great that they say that, at least in America, that fluoride in the water, even though it's a poison and toxin, okay, is like one of the greatest wonders of civilized, world. And of course, you go to any other country that doesn't have fluoride, they say it's toxic and it's a poison, so you don't put it in the water. At the very minimum, you would say that it's a type of medication, or it's you don't put medicated anything without a prescription, even though this is a toxic type of form. I mean, it is so crazy. And then they have like mercury in the vaccines, and they wonder why people have all kind of seizures and die, and there's a big onset of autism, and you wonder, or genetically modifying food. That's another great wizard of science. Yeah, putting insecticides in your food. You know what? My respect for the scientific community lately is that it's a bunch of hogwash. And while there's great inventions and there's new developments that are worthwhile, no doubt about it, and I'm not discounting the whole field of science, but the science that we're doing in the modern world, at least here in America, is sham science, and there's agendas behind it. And if you know it's true, because you can just look at it and just see there's all kind of special interests written all over it. It's just a bunch of bullshit. So I do not take it, and I'm not going to promote it, and I will call it out. And so that's why I'm going to get back to talking about bushcraft, prepping, and survival, because it's a major distraction for me to go down this road, because I'll be wanting to do 10 more videos on this tomorrow if I continue. So with that, I'm going to close this chapter for a while, unless there's like some crazy new developments in science that says something other crazy, then I may comment. But right now, I'm going to get back to prepping.